Welcome everybody. It's the 15th of April, I think. But it's been about 2 months, and since the last garden update, I thought I'd take you guys around, have a look at some of the major projects that we've gone through around here, and then some of the other few things that are coming up as we head into winter. Let's get into it. Banana tree has gotten huge. We've had like heaps of leaves just popped out over the course of the last 2 months. From here, I don't think it's going to get too much more going, and as much as it pains me, I don't think there's going to be any signs of a flower or any of the actual fruit. But I'm hoping that now that it's matured up a little bit, it will die back over winter, and then it will maybe have a better time next season. I guess we'll see. But yeah, not too bad for a cold climate. Our summer that we've just been through, the top temperature we got was maybe, I don't know, like barely into the 30s. So that's how the banana has turned out. Just off to the side, you can see some of the junk from that we're cleaning up. So some junk from the side, out the back, which I'll get to. We've moved a few plants, some of our agave, and then there's a few herbs and other sorts of succulents which I've moved up onto the bed itself. And other than that, not too much has changed down here, and you can see a little bit of a sign of some changes that are to come as we head out the back. So one of the biggest things that we've changed out here is it took a lot of prep work and just a lot of physical labor, but we've grassed out the back here. So this is all Tiftuff. It's a type of Bermuda grass. I've laid this about 3 weeks ago. We're keeping the boys off it for the time being, so they don't actually get to come in here very often. But it's taken in quite well from what I can tell. So 3 weeks, I think it's normally about 5 to 6 weeks is once it's fully started to knit together and you start to lose some of the tracks of where the grass slabs were. But otherwise, I think it's done quite well. So we didn't go all the way across to the side there just because that's still a bit of a project area at the moment. So we still got to remove this old chicken coop. And now I'm actually looking at expanding that shed. So I'm interested in expanding out the pad of the concrete pad out to where the chicken coop is, and then changing this either into a full-on greenhouse or into a sort of mixed-use shed plus greenhouse, something like that. So that's what's been happening out the back here. We've seen this area here just off to the side there. So we've got some there were lots of things like lettuces and things like that in here, but they all died off as we headed towards the end of summer. So what I've done is obviously I let these tomatoes go. Oh, sorry, that's right, there was the zucchinis. There were just mountains of zucchinis in here. So to fill the gap between when the zucchinis died and heading into what I planned out as the garlic patch, well, mainly the garlic patch, I threw in some short-term sorts of things. So you can see these are like a climbing bean. There's some dwarf beans over there. Not really expecting to get a massive harvest out of it, but I know they are very quick to grow and get into shape. So the plan here is to remove this tomato. There's another tomato here, some random lettuces. I have no idea where they came from. Got some ornamentals here just to provide a little bit of colour, something for the bees, and then the bok choy that's down here on the ground. So we've been going through massive amounts of this bok choy, which is really, really nice. Good quality, fresh, and really healthy kind of vegetable to throw in some of your dishes. So what I'm going to do is actually put garlic in here. So you can see on the right, we've got a mix of, this is a type of elephant garlic. So these are really huge bulbs. They're not as flavorful as standard garlic is, but they're obviously very big comparatively to standard garlic that you can see here. So we'll have a whole bunch of garlic in here, and these other things you can see are hellebores. So this is a type of, it's a ranunculus. It's in the ranunculus group, and these have got all sorts of colors. So I've got like painted white and pinks. There's a couple of double blacks in here. So these really beautiful, technically they're called black, but I mean, I think the actual color is a super, super dark purple. So these will provide a little bit of color here as the garlic looks to eventually grow through this area. as we get closer towards the end of the year when it starts to finish up and I can harvest it. So that's what's happening over in this bed here, which is, so this is facing north. Well, the bed faces north. I'm currently facing south. There you go. As we do end the summer, of course, there's all sorts of things flowering, starting from the many basil plants that I had. So all of these have flowered out, finished flowering. We've had bees everywhere with these, and harvested a lot of basil itself. I'm not sure what catnip does. This is catnip. I actually got it because I thought the dogs would be interested in it, but they don't actually care. I'm not sure if it doesn't do anything. Maybe that's why it's called catnip, but someone said to me that it actually does slightly work on the dogs, so I don't know. But anyway, as a plant, I have no idea what happens, but I'm assuming that several of these herbs that are here are going to die off as we head into winter, where it does get quite cold. So overnights we have easily into 0 degrees, sometimes a few degrees negative. And you can see these beautiful. So this is a pineapple sage, and these flowers are such a really nice color. So this has been a really nice herb to add into dishes as well. And then up the back there's things like the parsley and chives, and I did obviously have some lettuce in here too. Speaking of lettuce, you can see in the main beds we have all sorts of lettuces that have flowered, finished up flowering for the most part. Capsicums, they took their sweet time, but eventually we do have some capsicums in here which are not too far off being picked, so that's been really good. I did clear out a lot of stuff here, so we had cucumbers over here which I've cleared out. You can see the pumpkins in the distance, and we'll get to them in a moment. And otherwise I'm just sort of, this is where I had potted tomatoes over across in the main bed, but I'm gonna, what's wrong, Hanky, sit down, good boy. But I've obviously removed the tomatoes. I'm going to top up this bed with a lot of the soil here. Actually, while we're over here, so I've got these new compost bins. So these are 455 litre maize earth makers. So they have kind of a interesting system where you load up the top, and then it actually starts falling down into this section. You remove this little slot here. It keeps falling down slowly over time. A lot of aeration from the side. And then hopefully you get like a nice amount of compost, because I did start to notice that a lot of the soil in these beds is not as good as I thought it would be. So this was all like from an actual gardening supply center. So about 9 cubic meters in these two beds, and it's not as nutrient filled as I hope it would be. It does get a little bit kind of dusty. You can see it's not too bad, but it doesn't really clump. So ideally, with most soils for vegetable gardening, you kind of want it to be able to clump a little bit. So it doesn't really do that. It's not optimal. But I mean, look at this. We've got a whole bunch of stuff. Pumpkins galore. You can see I've already picked up 3, and then there's more of them coming through here, and even more continuing to grow. So I'm sort of in this weird dilemma where I do actually want to have a whole bunch of pumpkins to take them into winter, but I also need this space. So I guess we'll figure something out for that. But nice to see the snapdragons, the yellows, the pinks, the reds all coming through still. And like, here's an example. So down here, these are obviously a butternut pumpkin, nearly ready to go. So I'll pick that one up soon. And one of my favorite things in the garden, actually, that I did not think was going to work, but it seemingly has, are these chilies. So these are Buena Malata, I think it is. So these go from this beautiful purple color through to pink, and then over to red. And apparently they're quite spicy, like upwards, like a kind of really kind of a hot cayenne kind of chili. With these beautiful flowers as well, so they're doing quite nicely. And there's one of the other last few basils as we I've got to remove all this kind of stuff, so there's a lot of things which I've got to remove before we get all the winter planting started. Speaking of which, a few things very hard to see on the camera, but leeks and onions through this area. So Gonna see how they go in this sort of spot. You can see one just there, just bunches of leeks and onions. I've multi-sown them for the most part. And I guess the next in terms of projects, oh, hi Hank, is removing this deck. So this is going to be completely removed. Trees are probably going to go down, and there'll be a bed across to the side here. And this area here, come on, turn Hanky, turn. Good boy. So this area, obviously the clothesline, which I pulled out from across to the side before the grass was laid. So we'll get rid of that. We've got a skip coming, and I'll get rid of these footings, and then this section here, because it's already got an outline of a bed, right? So I'm going to actually just turn this into a straight up bed, in-ground bed. Obviously the soil itself is pretty awful, so it's going to take a season or two to really get this soil up to scratch, but I'm hoping that with the added bonus of the compost, that'll help repair that over time. Before I forget, I'll just show you some of the quick seedlings and what's happening in the veggie pod over there. Let's have a look. Just before we get to the veggie pod, I planted leftover tomatoes in here and cucumbers, which surprisingly did amazingly well. So these tomatoes are massive compared to the potted tomatoes that I had. Though of course they've done really well from a greenery perspective, but the actual tomatoes themselves have not ripened at all. It's just not hot enough for them to ripen anymore. Actually, hello there. Maybe that one's close. But you can sort of see these are a bit weird looking. This is a particular type from Peru, which it's in these weird sort of segments. I don't think I have a photo, but I'll try and find one and pop it up on the screen for you so you can see. But yeah, just kind of surprising to throw some seedlings in and see what they do. Lastly, this area is it's coming along nicely. You've got lots of things running in here, but there's still work to be done to sort of get these beds up to scratch and things like that. So we have there's raspberries. So those, you can see the other two just behind the eucalyptus over there. So these are just a standard type of raspberry. I've never grown any sorts of berries before, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with these, but we'll see how we go. We've also got heaps and heaps of saffron. So you can just see the little sprigs of them popping up there. And so this is a particular set that I planted late last year. Also got some ginger in here, turmeric, and so that's kind of a few of the spices that are coming along, and I'll get to some more saffron in a second. Meanwhile, these are some seedlings that have come along quite nicely. So we've got things like fennels, which I use a lot in cooking for pork related dishes and stuff like that. Various brassicas, so this is a kohlrabi, I think, or cabbage, kale, a couple of kale, some other seeds down the back. And in this actual bed itself is these little spinach, which I'm hoping to get sorted out pretty soon and start growing. And I did buy, as you can see here, the actual greenhouse cover for the veggie pod. So this is going to help these sorts of things stay nice and warm during the cold winters that we have up here. And just final little thing, here's some more saffron. So these are more, all these pots have saffron in them. And in fact, wow, I did not realize, but this is the reason these guys are so expensive. You get 2 to 3 flowers per little plant, and then each flower has, you can just barely see the red stamen in them, which once dried turns into your saffron. So I've got a couple of flowers already popping up. I have no idea why this one is just actually starting from a flower, but it's doing what it wants to do. And the flowers themselves, like, besides the fact that the herb is really nice in food, the actual flowers are quite pretty. So we've got bunches of saffron coming up, which is really cool to see. So and obviously the reason that it's so expensive is because you only get a couple of flowers per plant, like 2 to 3 per plant once a year, and each flower has 3 of these stamen inside, these red stamen, which is obviously what you dry to create the herb. So that's why saffron is insanely expensive, because there's no real way to automate it. Like you can't really automate it or kind of mechanize the process of it, because it's just very limited kind of resource, and B, picking out the little stamen is just super like it's a very fragile kind of task. So that's the world of saffron. A little bit of heritage from my end, but yeah, hope you've enjoyed the tour around the garden. I know the boys have enjoyed getting out onto the grass for once, and hope I'll catch you in the next video.